There appears to be a pretty spectacular new plastic box set on the way, Tartarus Terminators, Beaky Marines, and potentially an enormous plastic Spartan tank. Hello and welcome back to Auspex Tactics, where today we're talking about some more Games Workshop leaks, and potentially really quite a major box set on the way for the Horus Heresy. The Horus Heresy game tends to be largely run by Forge World, most of the range is resin, though in ages past they've had some excellent value new starter box sets, Betrayal at Calth pitting Ultramarines against Word Bearers, and giving access to a whole load of Legion Space Marines, a Contemptor Dreadnought, and some Terminators, and the Burning of Prospero set, where it was Space Wolves, Custodes, and Sisters of Silence against Thousand Suns. Unfortunately, both of those kits are no longer sold anymore, which is a shame really, as they were quite an easy access point to getting into the Horus Heresy game, or to be honest just getting into 40k in general. All of the models contained within both of them could easily be used in present day 40k, never mind the Horus Heresy. These pictures look like they could be from a new updated set, and if anything they're even bigger and more spectacular than those previous very good box sets that we've seen already. So here's the biggest picture that appears to show everything that's leaked in the box. As per the tradition of Warhammer 40k leaks, it's shot in potato cam, but I think that you can just about make out most of the contents of the box in this image. If this is indeed exactly what it looks like, it might imply that there's a new edition of Horus Heresy coming. Games Workshop does like to time major releases like this along with a new edition of their games, so there might be a bit of a refresh to their core rules, which have largely followed on from the rules from 7th edition and wasn't drastically changed like Warhammer 40k was when it went from 7th to 8th. The box could be either a launch box or a starter set. I believe both the Prospero and Calth boxes were around for a fair while. Calth was available for really quite a long time and then eventually went out of stock and they never reprinted it. In any case, I think it's quite an exciting development not just for Horus Heresy, but for Warhammer 40k as well. All the Marines and Terminators in here are perfectly fieldable in standard 40k armies, and you could easily use them to either represent Tactical Marines and Terminators, or standard Chaos Space Marines and Chaos Terminators. Characters are pretty much always good value, and you could easily convert them to be captains or lords of the various factions. The Contemptor and Spartan could also be fielded with the Forge World datasheets. They both have ones in the Imperial Armor Compendium, and there's a good chance that Games Workshop might issue 40k datasheets out for any of these models. They certainly did when they released the Calth Contemptor and the Tartarus and Cataphractii Terminators alongside the Betrayal at Calth box. To me, and for most people's general reactions online, the leaks do appear quite convincing. Apparently it was initially posted on Facebook and has rapidly been reposted all over the place. The Beaky Mark 6 Marines don't appear to be the standard Forge World resin kit for them. The Contemptor does appear to have subtle differences to any of the others that are sold currently, and I think that in all likelihood these are genuine. I'm sure there's a good chance that we'll hear from Games Workshop fairly shortly one way or the other. When the pictures of Indomitors got leaked, they responded fairly quickly. The factions in the box set appear to be the Sons of Horus versus Imperial Fists, the Sons of Horus of course being the old name for the Black Legion before they took the black on their Primarch's death. It does appear that none of the models have any distinct iconography on them though. A really good bit of design from the Betrayal of Calth box, which meant that you could use either of the armies as any chapter or legion, and you could field them all as one big cohesive army, as opposed to having to split them into two versus box sets, say with Indomitors where you have Marines and Necrons where they couldn't be on the same team. It means that you could really get a pretty enormous army going all together, just literally in one box set. If we look a bit closer at a few of the other pictures and go through the contents now, I believe it looks like there's 44 miniatures in this box, but this big whole army shot is really grainy and it's not easy to make out the ones in the back. I do think all the miniatures in shadow that you can barely see at the back are included though, as you can just about make out the Relic Contemptor in the top left, I believe with a full squad of power armor marines in front of him and then more Terminators loitering in the background. Much like Calth, it appears that there's two character miniatures in the box. I believe that Calth had a chaplain and a captain. I really can't make out quite enough details of these two in the centre to say one way or the other. There is a slightly better image showing part of the Imperial Fist one on the top left. I believe that he's armed with a power sword and some sort of Volkite weapon, and he does appear to be a power armoured character, not a Terminator one. He appears to be posing on the standard Games Workshop tactical rock as well. Then we have somewhere between 20 or 30 Mark 6 Corvus armoured marines. These are the Beaky helmeted Space Marines with the studded left shoulder pads, and a pretty awesome classic mark of armour that you see represented in the artwork quite a bit. As best I can tell, it looks like they're all in the same pattern of armour. A few of them have got some interesting nice sculpted chain bayonets, there's a few with plasma pistols and maybe a graviton gun, and a couple of power fists and power swords on some of the sergeants. They look like pretty nice detailed miniatures to me. You can see a banner on one here and a comms array on one of the ones on the front. There's a bunch of Cataphractii Terminators as well. They're represented by a relic Terminator datasheet in Warhammer 40k. Again, they appear to have a bit of a mix of gear. A few have chain fists, power fists and combi bolters. There's at least a few with lightning claws, and I think that one in the centre of this image looks like he has a Reaper autocannon. I really quite like the look of them, and the datasheet isn't all that bad in Warhammer 40k either. It certainly has its uses. We then come on to the Contemptor Dreadnought. He's got an autocannon in his right hand, a Dreadnought close combat weapon and what looks like a Storm Bolter in his left, and then I'm going to guess that's going to be a new version of the Cyclone missile launcher mounted on his top carapace, though I guess it could be a new profile for all we know. Finally, last but not least, it appears that the Terminators are disembarking from a new Spartan tank, and out of all of the things in this kit, this one might just be the single most interesting. Typically with big box set releases like this, Games Workshop tends to focus a bit more on infantry and small vehicles, maybe focusing a bit more on characters and dreadnoughts to add interest as opposed to including whacking great battle tanks. If they really are including an entire Spartan tank in here, then I'm very impressed indeed. I think it would be pretty epic to add something the size of a Land Raider to your collection just literally by buying one box that's sold alongside loads of other miniatures. Forge World sells Spartan tanks for £116 at the moment, so for me it's the kind of Forge World model that I'd likely never get round to collecting, and just be included randomly in a plastic box set would be amazing. To me it seems kind of unlikely that they'd include it quite so prominently in promotional material if it wasn't included, but obviously we will have to wait and see. In any case, it does look pretty spectacular overall. Could be a worthy pickup for people getting into Horus Heresy, or just for either Space Marine or Chaos Space Marine collectors who just want to add a ton of power armor and cool models to their army in one fell swoop. If it really is the 44 odd models that it looks like though, I'm going to guess that this is all going to cost quite a lot. I guess Indomitor's price is at the absolute very least, potentially a fair bit more seeing as there's something bigger than a Land Raider in it. In any case, whenever Games Workshop releases big plastic boxes like this, it does tend to be a relatively good deal for them, and even if you're not interested in every single bit of it, there might be a good chance for certain parts of it going for a bit cheaper online. Could be a good way to get your hands on some Beaky Marines, Cataphractii Terminators, or cool characters. So anyway, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Potentially looks very cool indeed to me. It'll be interesting to see what actually comes of it, and whether or not it really is quite as good as it looks. If you've enjoyed the video, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly try and keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases as they come out, focusing on anything that's relevant to 40k. Finally, if you have been enjoying the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that I do have a Patreon page, and you can find that in the video description. Making all these videos does take a fair amount of time, and any support is enormously appreciated if you are enjoying regularly. Channel patrons get a few advantages, such as seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry to the channel's monthly prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, a massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.